What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Guardians of the Galaxy multiplayer. That's right, there was originally going to be multiplayer of this game. Now, I think this is relatively new news, at least I hope so. If not, it's okay. But people did some digging, and they found basically an old employee of the studio. He's now actually working for Guerrilla Games. He actually worked there originally. He left. He did Watch Dogs 2. He went to do Guardians of the Galaxy, and then he went back to Guerrilla Games. And this guy basically let the cat out of the bag that there was, in fact, multiplayer for Guardians of the Galaxy, this game, and that it was canceled. And that's honestly all it was. I mean, I'll show the picture. It's got all his, basically all the stuff that he's done. And, obviously it says Guardians of the Galaxy, and then when it has that dash, obviously it says multiplayer, parentheses, canceled. So it doesn't give us too much info, in fact, none at all, of what the multiplayer would have been, why it was canceled, when it was canceled. When is probably the biggest thing to me that I would really, really love to know. I also do have one slight worry about the game that I will talk about in just a second. Really fast, so let me just plug myself, okay, here. Make sure if you guys haven't already, you guys are subscribed, bell icon, leave a like. If you guys want to follow me over on Twitter, Podcast Now 15 is my Twitter handle. Links in the description below. Okay, so, well, let me talk about my worry, because I don't think it's something that I saw, at least in the comments of the thread on Reddit where they found this stuff. One thing that I'm wondering is, and again, this is I like the way the game looked. We made a video specifically on it. I don't think it looks amazing. I know some people are getting really, really into it. That's fine. I mean, I have nothing against that. I'm a little cautious of it, but it definitely looks fun. I'm definitely getting it day one. I'm definitely playing it day one. All of those things, right? It's just I'm not like over the moon about it. So one thing I want to say is, I wonder. Okay, so like when they started the game, when they started, pitching the game, when they started making the game, how much was multiplayer a fundamental aspect? Really, it does go into the discussion of what was the multiplayer. Could you play as everybody else in single player, and then you could do multiplayer and people could jump over? Was multiplayer a completely separate mode in all, right? So I mean, you kind of have to wonder what it is, and you have to kind of try to figure out what that was in order to answer, I guess, my question, right? Because what I'm saying is, in a more negative way about the base game, if there's no multiplayer, if they built the game with multiplayer as a core strength of it, and then you remove it, will the game feel empty? I guess that's kind of where I'm trying to frame it. I'm not saying it will. It looks very good, and I'm not saying like, okay, well, now it's going to be like a 2-hour game because they expect it to be a 10-hour game and they cut nothing like that, right? But again, it's odd because I want to know what the multiplayer was. I'd imagine single player, and like a single player linear story was what they had intended to do. Single player in the way that you can choose to only play it by yourself. You know what I mean? Maybe a Gotham Knights situation where you're playing a Star-Lord and the rest will be, or I guess maybe that would even be like Suicide Squad Kill a Justice League, right? You'd be Star-Lord, everybody else would be AI controlled, or you could swap to whoever you want. But like, I don't know. I actually don't think that's what it. No, you know what? Now that I have to talk sometimes in order to like get my brain going. Right? It's early. I watched F9 last night, all that kind of stuff. But like, if the game was designed with you being Star-Lord as the leader and you making choice-based decisions and those having impacts of the game, long term, you couldn't really have ever had a big pillar of the game built on not only playing as Star-Lord, right? Playing as the rest. Unless you could play as the rest, but then in gameplay you're allowed to switch, you know what I mean? But like in cutscenes or I don't even know what you want to call them, but like in the gameplay walkthrough, right? When they're kind of like walking and they're just talking about things, maybe you can only still play as Star-Lord there. In cutscenes you're only playing as Star-Lord, but in the game you can swap to other people. And the reason I say you can swap is because, well, if you can swap, that means you can bring in other people, like multiplayer people. I don't know. I don't really know how else you would do it unless there is a separate mode where maybe there's like a multiplayer lobby where you jump in, your friends can jump in, and then you play missions from the story without the cutscenes and you can pick which character you play as, or maybe there's challenges or leaderboards, stuff like that. Maybe that's and well, another thing too, we don't necessarily know how off the ground, they say multiplayer. It was something I think that was like conceived, like they thought about it. I think they were actively making it into, because if they're not doing that, there's really no need to say it. You know what I mean? Obviously, yeah, he was probably behind it a little bit, so you would throw it in there. But I think that it had to actually be somewhat of a real thing. And then again, the last question, right, is when did they cancel it? Because you'll have a lot of people say, and I actually opposed this. I said this is not true in my opinion. Look, they've been making this game for around 3.5, 4 years, right? So they've been making this game for a while. They didn't, in my opinion, I said this when the game was announced, I don't think they pivoted because of Avengers. Because that game came out less than a year ago. These guys are heavy in development. They're obviously shooting for this fall, all that stuff. And by the way, there was even articles written about like working from home and the idea of only working as Star-Lord being a main contributor of like it not being like the most stressful thing on planet Earth, and them being able to put out the game this year. So maybe it happened last year, but it may have happened because of the stuff around the world. Maybe it happened last, January, February, March. They decided to kind of pull the plug on any sort of multiplayer aspect and just focus. But again, then my question is, well, then is the game really built from beginning to end as a choice-based, a linear game, a decision-based game where your decisions have impact and you play as one character? Like, was it actually built as that? Or did you do that in the last year, and then maybe it's not done all that well? So I know, I could maybe be framing it a little bit negative, but I'm very curious. I'm very curious as I don't really care the fact that it doesn't have multiplayer right now. You know what I mean? It's literally a news story. It's like, oh, it doesn't well, we know it doesn't have multiplayer. Now we know it did, but it was canceled. But again, the bigger thing to me is how did that impact the rest of the game? You know what I mean? When did the rest of the game start? Did multiplayer start first? Did the game start first? Things like that. Those are things that interest me more. So let me know, guys, in the comments below, what do you think about all of this? Make sure, as always, you guys are subscribed, bell icon, leave a like. All those things obviously help the channel quite a bit. We're growing great. You guys I really, really appreciate all of you guys for watching these videos. You guys rock. Again, Twitter podcast now 15. If you guys want to follow me over there, links in the description. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you all on the next video.